Hey there, this is Gary Knackstedt, and it's a Saturday in September, and I'm bored with food. And so, what I've got here, take a look at this, Michelle. Over here, we've got chopped jalapenos from the garden. And just to show you how simple this is, here's one jalapeno, and all I've been doing is cutting them in half, rotating them. Okay, so I cut it in half like this. I've already done it, you see. And then I turn it 90 degrees and I cut it again, so it's been quartered lengthwise. And then I just simply take it down here on the cutting board and slice it pretty thin. See? And I go up to the end, and then I turn it around and I take the top off of the jalapeno as well, not wasting anything. Okay, and if you take a look there, I've got probably 2 cups of water boiling, and would you say that's about, if I take a look at that, that's about 2 cups of that? Yep. And so this is a 1/4 cup measure, so 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4 cups. That's 1 cup. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what we've got there is 2 cups of sugar. I probably can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 cups of sugar. 2 cups. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've got 4 cups of sugar in there. You know, about 2 or 3 cups of water, doesn't matter. And I've got 2 cups of jalapenos here, which might as well get a little cook time on them. So I'll go ahead and put these jalapenos in. Now there's been no effort whatsoever to cut this with regular peppers or anything like that. By the way, this is my go-to knife. I have nice expensive global knives here, you see? And then I have the knife from the restaurant supply store. And to tell you the truth, I like this one much better. So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to wait for this to come to a boil. And I've got to get a spoon here. Stir this. While we're doing this, you know what else we need in here? Lemon juice.
Yep. Just probably wait till later.
I'm going to put it in later. But here, all of the sugar seems, no, the sugar is not all dissolved, but it will in time. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. Add about this will cook down a little bit. I'll bring it to a boil and I'll add a cup of lemon juice to it. And then over here, you see, I've got a package of fruit pectin. And looking at it here, let's look at the strawberries. 4 cups of strawberries would take 4 cups of strawberries 2 cups crushed strawberries, 4 cups sugar. I've got 2 cups of jalapeno. I'm going to put this whole packet of pectin in there. And measure exact amount of sugar, add the fruit, let stand, stirring occasionally. Anyway, I'm not worried about that. Add pectin to fruit juice or stir 3 minutes or until sugar completely dissolved and no longer graining. Anyway, at the end of this, just before I put this into nice jars, I'll add the pectin. But see, I'm looking there in the bottom. You see how it's dropped? Because these are... But we're going to boil this a little bit. And I don't see any grains in the juice mixture anymore. This looks very nice. So, the reason we're making this jalapeno jam is that we can put this on dishes like pork chops. So you take a plain old boring pork chop and then you put some jalapeno jam on top of it and it's instant wow. And the sugar wards off the heat and you can have a very nice gelatin. Now would you like a little bit of salt in here? Or are we going to just leave it?
Just leave it.
We're going to salt the pork chops anyway. So now I'm going to show you another thing that I'm a little bit lazy about. I don't always juice fresh lemons. In fact, a lot of times I buy a lemon juice that's in a bottle, but I don't buy the real lemon stuff because that tastes like preservative. What I found, however, is I've got this stuff, Italian Volcano lemon juice, and I use a lot of this. Looky here, we've got boiling. This is nice.
I'm going to boil it for a while, so we have to...
What do you mean? I gotta boil it for a while. Yeah, well, we're just gonna watch this. What, do we want to... We're gonna watch it boil!
You know, yeah, we hold this and watch it boil. And...
What do you think, dear?
Okay, sure.
Think we want to use that one, or would you like to use the smaller?
No, use the wide.
Use the wide mouth?
Yep. Yep, yep.
I think we better put 2 of these out here, don't you?
Mm-hmm. You may want to...
Look at that. I certainly think there's enough sugar in there. Don't you?
You know something about watching a pot boil?
Watching a pot boil. Well, but it had already come to a boil. You see that? This is documented proof. We watched, in fact, we filmed a pot coming to a boil, and it came to a boil even though we were watching it. Now, what do you have to say about that? I know. That's an old wives' tale, which is coincidentally the lady who told me that the watch pot never boils is an old wife. Oh boy.
And you want me to stand here in front of you?
I think that's funny. That there, I don't care who you are, that there is funny.
You are old. I am not.
You're 1 year, 1 year younger than I am.
Senile. Definitely so.
You are 1 year younger than me.
You're getting senile there. Now
Look at
what are
that.
we doing?
Well, I just thought I would let it cook down until it drops about a cup's worth.
So now what? You gonna tell them a story or something?
You want me to tell them a story? Once upon a time. You want me to tell them a story from when I was little? When I was grown?
Why don't you tell them a story?
The day I rescued you?
I know.
What do you want me to tell you a story about? Okay.
How about canning when you were little?
Well, when I was small, I was about 14 years old, let's say about 6th and 7th grade. I would get a 5/8 bushel basket. Actually, I'd get 3, 4, 5 of them. And I'd walk out to the garden. And then I would pick tomatoes. Now in Pennsylvania, our tomatoes were beefsteak tomatoes, and they were typically about this big. Okay? So I'd fill a 5/8 bushel basket up with them. Then it was all I could do, 6th grade, 7th grade, all I could do to pick that 5/8 bushel basket up and struggle into house with it. And then I'd go back and I'd pick maybe 10 5/8 bushel baskets. So I picked 2.5 bushels of tomatoes, right? My mom would wash them off, and she'd get a big one of those speckled blue canners, and she'd boil water in that. And then next door to that, we'd have a big can of just cold water, usually a dish pan. And so she'd drop the tomatoes into the canner of boiling water, let them in there for about, 30 seconds to a minute. I wasn't responsible for that. And then she'd take them out and put them in the cold water, and then finally into a colander. And she'd do that until she got a colander full, and I'd be there in the house, and I would slip the skin off of the tomato and put the tomato into another pan. And then my mom finally took those tomatoes and put them into a food mill and chopped it down and ran it was a food mill that she turned like this and then turned it back and then turned it, and all the juice would come down into a pan. When that was full, she'd empty the canner out and fill the canner with that tomato juice and cook it down until it's thickened slightly. Then she would, what would she do then? Then we would get either 2-quart or 1-quart jars like this. A lot of times we did tomato juice in 2-quart jars. So we filled those up and wiped the lid off, put the little canning lid on it, put down the band around it. Then she'd put them into another big blue canner, bring it up to a boil, and I don't know how long she had to cool them. Then they'd take those out and set them on the shelf. And by the way, this wasn't done in our kitchen, it was done in the little summer house. So we had a small...
Because you didn't have air conditioning.
We didn't have air conditioning back then. And you don't need it in Pennsylvania. So we would have 2-quart jars of tomato juice, dozens of them sitting there. And then you'd hear them eventually as they cooled, pop, pop, pop. And that was the canning lid going down the other direction and announcing that the jar was sealed. And then we took those down into shelves in our basement that was always cool. And we put them there. Typically, Mom would do about 120 quarts of tomato juice a year. Most of it in 2-quart containers. And that was because we made tomato, vegetable, beef stew, and that was made every Saturday. And that's the meal that we had a lot growing up. It's tomato, vegetable, beef stew with beef, onions, carrots, peas,